They say a father's love knows no bounds. I proved that when I wrote a check for $47,000 to make my daughter's dream wedding come true. I sat through months of planning, tasted dozens of cake samples, and held her hand when she cried over seating arrangements. But on the day of her wedding, as I stood in my perfectly tailored tuxedo with tears of joy streaming down my face, my daughter, my only child, looked me dead in the eye and said 5 words that shattered my world. "You weren't invited, Dad." What happened next? Well, let me tell you a story about how sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply letting the truth come to light. My name is Robert Mitchell, and this is the story of how I lost my daughter, found myself, and discovered that karma doesn't need any help from me. Before we dive into this emotional roller coaster, if you love stories about standing up for yourself and watching justice unfold, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button for sour revenge stories. We share real tales of betrayal and the sweet taste of vindication. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this story ends. Now let's get into it. Let me take you back 28 years. The day my daughter Emma was born was the day my life truly began. My wife Sarah and I had tried for years, endured 3 miscarriages, and had almost given up hope. When Emma finally arrived, screaming and red-faced at 3:47 a.m. on a snowy December morning, I knew I would do anything for her. And I mean anything. Sarah and I weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. I worked as a senior accountant at a mid-sized firm, and Sarah was a kindergarten teacher. We lived in a modest 3-bedroom house in suburban Ohio, and we saved every penny we could for Emma's future. Emma was everything we'd dreamed of. Straight-A student, captain of the debate team, volunteered at the animal shelter every Saturday. She had Sarah's warm brown eyes and my stubborn determination. We were best friends, Emma and I. Every Sunday we'd go to the diner on Main Street and split a stack of blueberry pancakes. She'd tell me about her dreams, becoming a lawyer, traveling to Paris, finding true love. "Dad," she'd say, syrup on her chin, "when I get married, will you walk me down the aisle?" "Sweetheart," I'd reply, "I'd walk through fire to get you there." Everything changed when Emma turned 16. That's when Sarah got sick. Breast cancer. Stage 3. The diagnosis came 2 weeks before Emma's birthday, and suddenly our world was full of hospital visits, chemotherapy sessions, and whispered conversations about survival rates. I tried to shield Emma from the worst of it, but teenagers aren't stupid. She saw her mother's hair fall out. She heard the late-night crying. She watched me age 10 years in 10 months. Sarah fought like a warrior, but cancer doesn't care how much you're loved. She passed away on a Tuesday afternoon in April, with Emma and me holding her hands. Her last words were, "Take care of each other." Grief does strange things to people. While I threw myself into work to avoid the empty house, Emma withdrew completely. She spent hours locked in her room, stopped eating regular meals, and her grades, once perfect, began to slip. I tried everything. Therapy, support groups, heart-to-heart talks that went nowhere. She'd look at me with those brown eyes, Sarah's eyes, and I'd see nothing but pain and anger. "You don't understand," she'd say. "Then help me understand," I'd beg. But she never did. Emma went to college across the country, UCLA, as far from Ohio as she could get without leaving the mainland. I helped her move into her dorm, unpacked her boxes, and tried not to cry when she barely hugged me goodbye. "Call me when you get settled," I said. She nodded, but the call never came. Our relationship became a series of text messages and awkward holiday visits. She'd come home for Christmas, stay in her old room, and spend most of her time with friends. I'd cook her favorite meals, pot roast with roasted carrots, homemade apple pie, and she'd eat them in silence. "How's school?" I'd ask. "Fine." "Make any new friends?" "Some." "Are you happy?" Silence. I told myself it was just a phase, that grief takes time, that she'd come back to me eventually. I kept our Sunday diner tradition alive by going alone, ordering 2 stacks of blueberry pancakes, and eating them both while reading the paper. The waitress, Dolores, who'd known us for years, would give me pitying looks. "She'll come around, Robert," she'd say. "Daughters always do." I wanted to believe her. Emma met Marcus during her junior year at UCLA. I learned about him through Facebook, a picture of them at some beach party. His arm around her waist, both of them grinning. He was handsome in that California way. Surfer blonde hair, bright white teeth, expensive sunglasses. When Emma finally called to tell me about him, 6 months into their relationship, I was so thrilled to hear her voice that I didn't care that she'd kept him a secret. "Dad, his name is Marcus Reynolds. He's in law school. We're really serious." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. When do I get to meet him?" "Oz. Soon. Maybe Christmas." Christmas came and went. No Marcus. Neither did spring break or summer vacation. Emma had excuses every time. He was studying for the bar, his family needed him, they were traveling. I started to feel like a stranger in my own daughter's life. But I held on to hope. Maybe Marcus was the key to getting Emma back. Maybe love would heal what grief had broken. The engagement call came on a random Thursday evening. I was eating leftover Chinese food and watching a rerun of Law and Order when my phone rang. "Dad, guess what?" Emma's voice was high-pitched with excitement, a sound I hadn't heard in years. "What, honey?" "Marcus proposed. We're getting married." My heart soared and sank at the same time. Joy that she was happy. Sadness that I'd learned about the proposal after the fact, not been there to celebrate the moment. "That's amazing, Emma. Congratulations. When's the wedding?" "We're thinking June. In California. It's going to be perfect, Dad. A beach wedding at sunset, just like I always dreamed." We talked for 45 minutes that night, the longest conversation we'd had in years. She gushed about Marcus, about the ring, 2 carats, platinum band, about her vision for the wedding, elegant but bohemian, she said, whatever that meant. When she finally paused for breath, I said, "Em, I'm so happy for you. I can't wait to walk you down that aisle." Another pause. Shorter this time. "Yeah, Dad. That would be nice." A week later, Emma called again. This time her voice was different. Tentative. Almost calculating. "Dad, I need to talk to you about something." "Of course, sweetheart. Anything." "It's about the wedding. Marcus and I have been looking at venues and vendors, and everything in California is so expensive. Like, insanely expensive." "How expensive are we talking?" She took a deep breath. "The venue alone is $15,000. And that's just for 6 hours. Then there's the catering, the flowers, the photographer, the band, Emma's dress." "Wait, who's Emma?" "What? Oh, I mean my dress. Sorry, I'm just stressed." "How much do you need, honey?" She hesitated. "Marcus's parents are contributing $25,000. But we really want this to be special. We've been looking at this absolutely perfect venue in Malibu, right on the cliffs overlooking the ocean. It's where celebrities get married, Dad. It's a once-in-a-lifetime thing." My accountant brain was already doing the math. Venue, catering for 150 guests, photographer, videographer, flowers, music, dress, tuxedo rentals, invitations, wedding planner. "Emma, give me a number. What would make this perfect? If you could match what Marcus's parents are contributing. $25,000. That would be incredible. $25,000. Half my savings. Money I'd been carefully growing since Sarah died, planning to use for retirement, emergencies, maybe a grandchild's college fund someday. But this was Emma. Emma. And she was talking to me, really talking to me for the first time in years. "Done," I said. "Consider it my gift to you." The squeal of joy that came through the phone made every penny worth it. "Oh my God, Dad. Really? Are you sure?" "Absolutely sure. You only get married once. Let's make it perfect." "Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you, Dad." those 3 words. I hadn't heard them in so long that I felt tears spring to my eyes. I love you too, sweetheart. So much. After the money conversation, Emma and I talked more frequently. She'd call to discuss wedding details. Should the napkins be cream or ivory? Did I prefer roses or peonies? Would I be okay with a DJ instead of a band? I didn't care about any of it. I just loved hearing her voice, being included in her life again. I started a special wedding folder on my computer, saved every photo she sent me, bought a new suit for the occasion. But there were strange things. Little red flags I ignored because I was so desperate to maintain our connection. She never asked if I wanted to invite anyone. When I mentioned bringing my sister Carol, Emma's aunt, who'd helped me through Sarah's death and the dark years after, Emma got weird. The guest list is really tight, Dad. Marcus's family is huge, and we're trying to keep it intimate. But Carol is family. I know. Let me talk to Marcus and see what we can do. Carol never got an invitation. Then there was the matter of meeting Marcus. Every time I suggested flying out to California or them coming to Ohio, something came up. His finals, her work, a friend's birthday, his parents' anniversary. We'll all get together at the wedding, Emma assured me. You'll love him, Dad. He's amazing. I wanted to meet the man who'd captured my daughter's heart, but I told myself we'd have plenty of time at the wedding. I'd get to know Marcus, bond with his family, celebrate this new chapter. I was such a fool. 2 months before the wedding, Emma called again. I could hear the stress in her voice immediately. Dad, we have a problem. My heart sank. What's wrong? Everything is costing more than we thought. The caterer increased their prices. We need more florals than we planned. And the photographer wants an extra $3,000 for a second shooter and extended coverage. How much more do you need? Another $15,000 would cover it. But Dad, I know that's a lot. Maybe we can cut some things. No, I interrupted. No cutting. This is your dream wedding, Emma. I'll make it work. Are you sure? I don't want to drain you dry. $15,000 more. That would put me at $40,000 total. Almost all my liquid savings. But the alternative was Emma stressed and disappointed, maybe resenting me for not helping her have the wedding she wanted. I'm sure, sweetheart. But this has to be it, okay? $40,000 is my absolute limit. Of course. This is definitely it. Thank you so much, Dad. You're the best. Best. I clung to those words. 3 weeks before the wedding, my phone rang at 11 p.m. I was already in bed, but seeing Emma's name on the screen, I answered immediately. Everything okay? She was crying. Not sad crying, panic crying. Dad, I'm so sorry to call this late. But we have a crisis. The venue doubled their liability insurance requirement. And we need $7,000 more or they're going to cancel everything. $7,000 more. $47,000 total. That would empty my savings account except for my emergency fund. Emma, that's... I know it's too much. We'll figure something else out. Maybe we can get a cheaper venue or... The thought of Emma's dream dying, of this being my fault, was unbearable. Send me the invoice. I'll wire the money tomorrow. Dad, are you sure? I'm sure. But Emma, this really has to be the last time. It is. Promise. Everything is paid for now. God, Dad, you're literally saving my life. The wedding is going to be so beautiful. You're going to be so proud. Proud. Already was proud. Proud to help her, proud to be her father, proud that we'd rebuilt our relationship. I flew to California 5 days before the wedding. Emma had been too busy with final preparations to pick me up, so I took a shuttle to my hotel, a budget chain near the airport, 40 minutes from the venue. I'd assumed I'd stay somewhere closer, maybe even at the same hotel as the wedding party, but Emma explained they'd booked a luxury resort for immediate family only. It's really small, Dad, and Marcus's parents reserved the whole place for their family. But your hotel is nice. And it's not that far. Not that far. 40 minutes became 90 with traffic. But I didn't complain. I was just happy to be there. The rehearsal dinner was scheduled for Thursday night. I'd bought a new blazer for the occasion, practiced my father of the bride speech in my hotel mirror, and arrived at the restaurant 30 minutes early. It was a high-end steakhouse in Santa Monica with ocean views and valet parking. I gave my name to the hostess. "I'm sorry, sir, but you're not on the list. There must be a mistake. I'm Robert Mitchell, Emma's father. The bride's father." She checked again, her perfectly manicured nail running down the guest list. "I show a Richard Mitchell. That's my brother. I'm Robert. Could you please check with Emma?" After an awkward 10 minutes of the hostess making hushed phone calls while other guests arrived and were seated immediately, Emma appeared. She was glowing in a white sundress, her hair in soft curls. She looked so much like Sarah that my breath caught. "Dad." "Hi." She gave me a quick, stiff hug. "So there was a tiny mix-up with the guest list. Is everything okay?" "Yeah, totally fine. But the thing is, this dinner is really just for the wedding party. You know, the people in the ceremony. And since you're not a groomsman or anything, I'm walking you down the aisle, Emma." She glanced back toward the restaurant. "Right, but the dinner is specifically for the bridesmaids and groomsmen. It's tradition. I've been to a dozen weddings, honey. Parents are always at the rehearsal dinner." Her jaw tightened, a look she'd inherited from me. "Dad, please don't make a scene. Marcus's parents planned this whole thing, and the numbers are set. You can come to the actual rehearsal tomorrow at the venue." "What time?" 2:00. "I'll text you the address." She kissed my cheek, leaving a smudge of lipstick, and disappeared back into the restaurant. I stood there in my new blazer, watching through the window as the party laughed and toasted with champagne. I could see Marcus for the first time, tall, animated, holding court at the head of the table. Emma sat beside him, beaming. I drove back to my hotel and ate a burger from room service. Friday afternoon, I arrived at the venue at 1:30 p.m., half an hour early. The location was stunning. Perched on Malibu cliffs, the space offered sweeping views of the Pacific Ocean. White chairs were arranged in neat rows facing a flower-covered arch. The setup crew was still working, hanging Edison bulbs and arranging centerpieces. I found Emma directing a frazzled-looking wedding planner. "The orchids go on the left side, not the right. And those candles are completely wrong. I ordered ivory, not white." "Hi, sweetheart." She spun around, surprise crossing her face. "Dad, you're early. I wanted to help if you needed anything." "Oh, but everything's under control." The wedding planner seized the moment of distraction to scurry away. Emma turned back to me, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "So, the rehearsal got moved to noon. I'm sorry I forgot to text you. It's after 1. "Right. So we already did it. But don't worry. Walking down the aisle is super simple. You just walk at a steady pace, hand me off to Marcus, and take your seat in the front row." I missed the rehearsal. My voice came out smaller than I intended. "It's really not a big deal, Dad. Honestly, you didn't miss anything. Emma, I flew across the country for this. I'd like to be included in the preparations." She sighed, that teenage exasperation I remembered from her high school years. "You're being included. Or here. You'll be at the wedding. What more do you want?" What more did I want? To feel like I mattered. To meet the man marrying my daughter. To be treated like family instead of an inconvenient obligation. Can I at least meet Marcus? He's at the hotel with his groomsmen, getting ready for tonight's party. But you'll meet him tomorrow. Before the wedding, definitely. There's a party tonight. Just a small thing. For the out-of-town guests. Super casual. Should I? It's at the resort, Dad. The closed resort. You wouldn't have fun anyway. It's mostly Marcus's law school friends. You know how boring those conversations can be. I didn't know. I hadn't been invited to find out. Saturday morning I was up at 5 a.m. I showered, shaved carefully, styled my thinning hair, and put on my tuxedo. It had cost me $800, more than I'd ever spent on a single piece of clothing in my life. But I wanted to look perfect for Emma's big day. The wedding was at 6 p.m., but I arrived at the venue at 2. I told myself I wanted to see the final preparations, but the truth was I had nothing else to do. I wasn't invited to the bridal suite, wasn't part of the photos, wasn't needed for anything. The venue had been transformed overnight. Thousands of white roses and orchids covered every surface. Gauzy fabric billowed in the ocean breeze. A string quartet practiced in the corner. It was the kind of wedding you saw in magazines. Elegant, expensive, perfect. My $47,000 was draped over every inch of the space. I found a quiet corner and watched the chaos unfold. Bridesmaids in flowing lavender dresses rushed past. Groomsmen adjusted bow ties. Marcus's mother, I assumed, directed staff with military precision. She was tall, elegant, wearing more diamonds than seemed practical for an outdoor beach wedding. No one spoke to me. No one seemed to notice I existed. At 5:30, as guests began arriving, I took my place in the front row on the bride's side. A kind, elderly woman sat next to me. "Bride or groom?" she asked. "Bride. I'm her father." "Oh, how wonderful. You must be so proud. Such a beautiful wedding." "Yes," I said. "It is beautiful." At exactly 6 p.m., the string quartet transitioned into canon in D. The guests stood. My heart pounded. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. I'd walk my daughter down the aisle, give her away to the man she loved, and maybe finally we'd be okay again. The bridesmaids processed down the aisle one by one, their lavender dresses catching the golden light of the setting sun. Then the flower girl, Marcus's tiny niece, scattered rose petals with more enthusiasm than accuracy. The music swelled into the bridal march. Everyone turned toward the entrance. And Emma appeared. She was breathtaking. Her dress was a cascade of lace and silk, her veil trailing behind her like a dream. She held a bouquet of white roses and peonies, Sarah's favorite flowers. For a moment I saw Sarah in her, and my eyes filled with tears. I started to move toward her to take my place at her side. But she wasn't alone. A man stood beside her. Tall, silver-haired, distinguished in an expensive tuxedo. He had his arm looped through Emma's, and she was smiling up at him like he'd hung the moon. Confusion froze me in place. Who was this man? Where was I supposed to be? Emma and the stranger proceeded down the aisle. As they passed me, our eyes met. And I saw nothing there. No apology, no explanation, no emotion at all. They reached the altar, and the officiant began speaking, but I couldn't hear the words over the roaring in my ears. I don't remember leaving my seat. I don't remember walking down the aisle. But suddenly I was there at the altar, my voice too loud in the stunned silence. "What's going on? Emma, why didn't I'm supposed to walk you down the aisle?" Every head turned. The string quartet fell silent. Emma's face transformed from surprise to anger in an instant. "Dad, not now." "But we planned, you said." Marcus stepped forward, his hand up like a traffic cop. "Sir, you need to return to your seat. You're disrupting the ceremony." "I'm her father." "I understand that, but..." Emma grabbed my arm, her fingers digging into my skin. Her voice dropped to a harsh whisper. "You need to stop. Right now." I don't understand. I paid for..." Her face went hard. Those warm brown eyes, Sarah's eyes turned to ice. You weren't invited, Dad. The words didn't make sense. What? You weren't invited. She spoke slowly, like explaining something to a child. You're not supposed to be here. The world tilted. Emma, I paid $47,000 for this wedding. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Marcus's mother stood up, her face flushed. Other guests whispered, phones appearing to capture the drama. Emma's jaw clenched. That was your choice. I never asked you to contribute that much. You called me. You said you needed. I asked for help. You decided to turn it into this. Throwing money around and expecting. What? Gratitude. A gold star. I expected to be treated like your father. You are my father, she said coldly. And this is how I'm treating you. Now please leave before you ruin my wedding entirely. The silver-haired man, still holding Emma's arm, spoke for the first time. Perhaps it's best if you go. Who the hell are you? Emma's voice was quiet now. Edley. This is Richard. Marcus's father. And he's the one walking me down the aisle because he's been more of a father to me in 2 years than you've been in 10. The words were a knife to the gut. Emma. Security, she called. 2 large men in black suits appeared. When had venues started having security? Emma, please. Sorry. Whatever I did. You didn't do anything, Dad. That's the problem. Mom died and you buried yourself in work. You weren't there when I needed you. And then you think you can buy your way back into my life with a check. It doesn't work that way. I was grieving too. And I was 17. I needed you. The pain in her voice cracked something open inside me. All those years of distance, of missed calls and awkward silences, crystallized into this moment. I know I failed you. But I tried. Not hard enough. He turned away. Get him out of here. The security guards took my arms. Not roughly but firmly. As they escorted me back down the aisle, past 200 staring guests, past the flowers my money had bought, past the life I'd paid for but wasn't welcome in, I looked back one last time. Emma had already turned to Marcus, her hand in his, the ceremony resuming as if I'd never existed. I spent Emma's wedding night in my budget hotel room, still wearing my $800 tuxedo, staring at the water-stained ceiling. My phone buzzed constantly. Text messages from the few guests who had my number, old friends of Sarah's, distant relatives who'd watched Emma grow up. What happened? Are you okay? That was horrible. Can't believe Emma did that. I turned off my phone. I didn't want their pity or their outrage. I just wanted to understand where everything had gone so wrong. Sarah would have known what to do. Sarah could have bridged the gap between us, translated Emma's pain into words I could understand. But Sarah was gone, and I'd failed at the one job she'd left me, taking care of our daughter. At some point, I stripped off the tuxedo and lay on the bed in my underwear, staring at the digital clock as it ticked toward midnight. Somewhere, Emma was dancing at her reception, cutting the cake I'd paid for, celebrating with the father-in-law who'd replaced me. And I was alone. I flew back to Ohio the next morning. Didn't even try to see Emma, to apologize or explain. What was there to say? My sister Carol picked me up from the airport. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug right there in baggage claim. I heard, she said simply. How? Facebook. The videos are everywhere. Course they were. Emma's humiliation of me had gone viral. Somewhere, millions of strangers were watching me get escorted out of my daughter's wedding, were commenting on what a toxic father I must be, were praising Emma for her strength in standing up to me. None of them knew about the $47,000. None of them knew about the years I'd tried and failed to reach her. None of them knew that I'd loved her more than anything, and it still hadn't been enough. Come stay with me for a few days, Carol said. I did. I spent a week in her guest room, ignoring my phone, eating the meals she brought me, trying to piece together what came next. On day 8, Carol made me shower and come downstairs for breakfast. "You need to eat something that's not cereal," she said, sliding a plate of eggs and toast in front of me. I pushed the food around my plate. "I don't understand what I did wrong. Robert." I gave her everything. After Sarah died, I worked extra hours to save for her college. I paid off her student loans. I gave her $47,000 for a wedding I wasn't even invited to. What more could I have done? Carol sat down across from me, her expression gentle but firm. "You gave her money, Robert. Not yourself." "I tried." "Did you? Really?" She held up a hand before I could protest. "I love you, brother. But after Sarah died, you shut down. Emma needed you to grieve with her, to talk about her mother, to be present. Instead, you worked yourself to death and threw money at her whenever she asked. She stopped talking to me. Because you stopped trying. You let a teenage girl, a traumatized, grieving teenage girl, dictate the terms of your relationship. You should have fought for her. Insisted on family therapy. Showed up at her dorm unannounced. Anything but just accepting the distance." The truth of her words hurt more than Emma's rejection. I was scared. Of what? Of losing her. If I pushed too hard, demanded too much, she might cut me off entirely. So I just waited. Hoped she'd come back on her own. "And you let her use you for money in the meantime." Flinched. "It wasn't like that. Wasn't it? Robert, she called you when she needed cash. Never to say I love you, never to ask how you were doing. Just when she had her hand out. And you gave and gave because you thought that's what love looked like. What else was I supposed to do? Set boundaries. Tell her no. Insist on being part of her life in real ways, not just as a checkbook. You taught her that your only value was your money. And then you're surprised when that's all she wanted from you." I pushed away from the table, angry now. "So this is my fault. She humiliated me in front of 200 people, but I'm the one who did something wrong." "You're both wrong," Carol said quietly. "She's cruel and entitled. And you enabled it. You can both be true." I went home the next day. Returned to my empty house, to the silence that had been my companion for a decade. I was sorting through mail when I found it, a cream-colored envelope, hand-addressed in elegant calligraphy. Name. My address. A wedding invitation. "Emma Rose Mitchell and Marcus James Reynolds request the honor of your presence." I stared at it, confused. Why would I receive an invitation after the wedding? Had it been delayed in the mail? Then I checked the postmark. Sent 3 days before the wedding. I'd received it. It had been sitting in my mail pile the whole time, buried under bills and junk mail. With shaking hands I opened it. Inside was the standard invitation, with one detail that made my blood run cold. Reception immediately following the ceremony. Adults only, please. I flipped to the RSVP card. Still tucked inside, unfilled. Emma had invited me. But she'd sent the invitation so late, and said nothing about it in our phone calls, that I'd never seen it. Never responded. In her mind, I'd been invited and simply hadn't bothered to RSVP. But that didn't explain her words at the altar. "You weren't invited, Dad." I pulled out my laptop and did something I'd avoided. I looked up the wedding videos. There were dozens of them. TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Everyone at that wedding had been filming. I forced myself to watch the moment of my humiliation from multiple angles. And in doing so, I noticed something I'd missed in the chaos. When Emma said, "You weren't invited, Dad," her eyes had flicked to someone in the crowd. Just for a second. And the camera, one of the cameras, had followed her gaze. To Marcus's mother, who was smiling. Kept digging. Found a longer video, posted by one of the guests, showing the lead-up to the ceremony. Can't believe her dad actually showed up, someone whispered off camera. I know, another voice replied. After what he did. The audacity. Marcus said his mom had to literally uninvite him. Good. Men like that don't deserve to be at their daughter's wedding. Men like what? What had I allegedly done? I searched Emma's social media. We weren't connected, she'd unfriended me years ago, but her accounts were public. And there, buried in posts from 6 months ago, I found it. A long, emotional caption under a photo of Emma and Marcus's mother, cheek to cheek, both smiling. So grateful for this woman who's shown me what a real mother-daughter relationship looks like. After years of toxicity and emotional manipulation from my bio parents, I finally have a family that values me for who I am, not what I can give them. To everyone out there struggling with narcissistic parents, it gets better. You can choose your family. Red heart. Narcissistic parents. Emotional manipulation. Sarah and I had been many things, flawed definitely. Too grief-stricken to parent well after Sarah's diagnosis. Absolutely. But toxic. Narcissistic. I scrolled through more posts. Each one painted a picture of a father who'd been absent, cruel, controlling. Who'd used money to manipulate her. Who'd tried to sabotage her relationship with Marcus because I was threatened by her happiness. None of it was true. But thousands of people had liked these posts, commented their support, validated Emma's narrative. You're so brave for cutting him off. Toxic parents don't deserve access to your life. The best revenge is living well. Desperate for understanding, I did something I'm not proud of. I found the videographer's business page from the wedding hashtag and called him. Hi, this is Robert Mitchell. I was at the Reynolds-Mitchell wedding last weekend. Oh, long pause. You're the father. Yes. Listen, I know this is unusual, but I'm trying to understand what happened. Did you film the getting ready portion? The bride prep? I did, but sir, I can't share client footage without permission. I'm not asking for the footage. Did you hear anything? About me? About why I wasn't supposed to be there? Another pause. Then quietly. Man, I felt bad for you. That whole situation was messed up. What situation? The bride and groom's mother, Marcus's mom, they were talking about you all morning. How you'd been harassing them, demanding to be involved, threatening to ruin the wedding if you weren't included in everything. My stomach dropped. I know. I saw the texts. What texts? The mother-in-law was showing them to everyone. Messages allegedly from you saying crazy stuff. But dude, I've been filming weddings for 10 years. I know Photoshop when I see it. Those screenshots were edited. Badly. Why would she do that? No idea. But she had everyone convinced you were some kind of stalker, dad. Even had security briefed to watch for you. The bride seemed, I don't know, conflicted. But the mom was running the show. After we hung up, I sat in stunned silence. Marcus's mother had orchestrated this. Had convinced Emma that I was toxic, dangerous, unwelcome. Had fabricated evidence to support her claims. But why? The answer came 3 days later from the most unexpected source. My bank. Mr. Mitchell, this is Karen from First National Bank. We're calling about some suspicious activity on your account. What kind of activity? Several large wire transfers over the past 6 months. We flagged them because they exceed your normal spending patterns. We wanted to confirm they were authorized. The wedding payments. Yes, those were authorized. I sent them to my daughter. Sir, these transfers weren't to your daughter. They were to a business account registered to Reynolds Family Events, LLC. My blood ran cold. What? 4 separate transfers totaling $47,000. The account is owned by a Judith Reynolds. Marcus's mother. There must be a mistake. No mistake, sir. You can see the routing numbers and account details in your online banking. Would you like me to walk you through accessing them? I pulled up my account. There they were. Every payment I'd made to Emma had actually gone to Judith Reynolds's business account. Emma had never seen a dime of my money. I tried calling Emma. Blocked. I tried messaging her on every platform. Also blocked. So I did the only thing I could think of. I drove to their apartment. It took me 2 days to find their address. I had to hire a private investigator. When I finally stood outside their trendy Los Angeles loft, my hands were shaking. I rang the buzzer. No answer. I rang again. And again. Finally, Marcus's voice crackled through the intercom. Who is it? It's Robert Mitchell. I need to speak with Emma. She doesn't want to talk to you. Please. 5 minutes. It's about the wedding money. Long pause. Then the door buzzed open. Marcus met me in the hallway, his arms crossed. In person, without the rage and humiliation clouding my vision, I could see he was younger than I'd thought. Maybe 26, 27. Handsome in a generic way. You have 5 minutes, he said. Where's Emma? Inside. She's upset. Your little scene at the wedding embarrassed her in front of everyone she knows. My scene. I was told I was walking my daughter down the aisle. Then I was told I wasn't invited to a wedding I paid $47,000 for. You didn't pay for our wedding. Excuse me. My mother paid for the wedding. Every penny. You didn't contribute anything. I pulled out my phone, showed him my bank statements. 4 wire transfers. $47,000. All sent at Emma's request. Marcus's confident expression faltered. That's impossible. My mother. Your mother owns Reynolds Family Events LLC, doesn't she? That's where all my money went. He stared at the screen, color draining from his face. I need to call my mom. I need to talk to Emma. Now. Emma appeared in the doorway, her face blotchy from crying. When she saw me, her expression hardened. What are you doing here? Did you ask me for money for your wedding? What? Well, Marcus's parents paid for everything. Then why did you call me 4 times asking for wedding funds? Why did you say you needed $25,000, then $15,000 more, then another $7,000? Confusion crossed her face. I never called you about money. We haven't talked about money since college when you paid off my loans. Marcus had his phone pressed to his ear. Mom, I need you to explain something. Did Robert Mitchell send you money? What do you mean it's complicated? How much? $47,000. He lowered the phone, his face pale. My mother says you were making donations to her event planning business. Donations. She pretended to be Emma. That's impossible. My mother would never. Check Emma's phone records. Check her call history. You'll see I'm telling the truth. Emma was already scrolling through her phone. Dad, I haven't called you in 8 months. The last time we talked was when I told you I was engaged. Someone using your number called me 4 times. Someone who sounded exactly like you. Marcus was still on the phone with his mother, his voice rising. How could you do this? I don't care about your reasons. That's fraud, Mom. Emma looked between us, realization dawning. Your mother did this. Marcus ended the call. His hands were shaking. She's coming over. She says she can explain. Judith Reynolds arrived 20 minutes later, perfectly composed in a designer pantsuit. She looked at me with barely concealed disdain. Robert. How unfortunate to see you here. You stole $47,000 from me. I did no such thing. You made generous donations to my business. By pretending to be my daughter. Emma stepped forward. Mom, Judith, what's he talking about? Judith. The term made me want to vomit. Sweetheart, your father has some delusions about the wedding finances. Marcus and I are handling it. Did you call him pretending to be me? Emma's voice was small, uncertain. Judith's smile didn't waver. Of course not. That would be illegal. Then who called him 4 times asking for money? Marcus demanded. How should I know? Perhaps he's confused. Perhaps he wanted to contribute and is now having buyer's remorse. I pulled out my phone, played a voicemail I'd saved. Emma's voice, or what I'd thought was Emma's voice, filled the apartment. Dad, it's me. I'm so sorry to ask, but we really need that extra $7,000 for the venue. Can you wire it to this account? I'll text you the routing number. Thank you so much. I love you. Emma's face went white. That's not me. It sounds exactly like you, I said. But it's not. My voice is higher. And I would never. I didn't. Judith remained calm. Voice technology these days is quite advanced. Anyone could have generated that. You did this, Emma whispered. You did this to get money from my dad. Don't be ridiculous. Why would I need money? We're quite comfortable. Marcus pulled out his own phone. Because you're not comfortable, are you, Mom? You told me last year that Dad cut off your credit cards. That you were struggling after the divorce. Marcus, you said you'd help with the wedding costs. You said you had it covered. But you didn't, did you? You used Robert's money. I used funds that were willingly donated to my legitimate business. By impersonating his daughter. Emma's voice broke. How could you? He's my father. He's barely your father, Judith snapped, her composure finally cracking. He abandoned you when your mother died. He was never there for you. I've been more of a parent to you in 2 years than he's been in 10. So you decided to scam him and turn me against him. Emma's hands were shaking. What did you tell me? What lies did you feed me? No lies. I simply helped you see the truth about his manipulative behavior. You told me he was trying to control my wedding. That he was demanding to be involved in everything. Threatening to boycott if he didn't get his way. He was inserting himself where he wasn't wanted. Because I called him. Because you used a voice AI to call him pretending to be me. I'd been silent through this exchange, watching my daughter piece together the truth. Now I spoke quietly. Emma, did your mother-in-law show you text messages from me? Yes. You were saying horrible things. Calling Marcus names, saying I was making a mistake. I never sent those texts. They had your number. Spoofing a number is easy, Marcus said quietly. He looked sick. Mom, what did you do? Judith's mask finally fell. Underneath was something cold and calculating. I did what I had to do. Do you think your father would have paid for this wedding? He barely paid his child support on time. I had to find the money somewhere. So you targeted my father. Emma's voice rose. You manipulated both of us. You made me think he was toxic so I'd cut him off, so he'd be desperate enough to do anything to reconnect with me. It was for your benefit. You got the wedding of your dreams. Built on lies. Emma was crying now. I said horrible things to him. I had him escorted out of my wedding. I told him he wasn't invited when he'd paid for the entire thing. You told me he crashed the wedding, Marcus said. You said he'd RSVP'd no and then showed up anyway to cause a scene. He did cause a scene. Because you set him up. Emma turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Dad, I'm so sorry. I thought. She showed me all this evidence and I believed her. I wanted to believe her because it was easier than admitting I'd pushed you away for no reason. You had reasons, I said quietly. I wasn't there when you needed me. After your mother died, I failed you. But you tried. You called, you visited, you offered to help. And I shut you out because I was angry and hurt. And then Emma pointed at Judith. She used that. She used my pain to manipulate me. I was protecting you, Judith insisted. From what? From my own father. You were protecting yourself. You needed money, and you found a way to get it. Marcus was on his phone again. I'm calling the police. Don't you dare, Judith hissed. You committed fraud, Mom. Wire fraud. Identity theft. Do you know how many laws you broke? I'm your mother. And he's Emma's father. The man you slandered, stole from, and turned his own daughter against. I held up my hand. Wait. Everyone turned to look at me. I don't want to involve the police, I said. Dad, she stole from you. I know. But pressing charges means trials, publicity, years of legal battles. It means you and Marcus start your marriage with his mother in prison. She deserves prison, Marcus said flatly. Maybe. But Emma doesn't deserve that. And neither do you. Judith's eyes narrowed. What do you want? I want my money back. All of it. Within 7 days. And I want you to stay away from Emma. I will not. Those are my terms. Pay me back and leave my daughter alone, or I file charges. Your choice. You have no proof. I have bank statements, voice recordings, and a very expensive lawyer who's been waiting for my call. Pulled out my phone. I also have a forensic audio specialist who can prove that voice wasn't Emma. And I'm guessing if we dig deep enough, we'll find the AI service you used to clone her voice. Judith's face went from red to white. You can't prove anything. Try me. For a long moment we stared at each other. Then she grabbed her purse. Fine. You'll have your money. But Emma, you're making a mistake. He'll hurt you again. And I won't be there to pick up the pieces. Get out, Emma said. And don't come back. Judith looked at her son. Marcus. He turned away. I need time to process this, Mom. A lot of time. She left without another word, heels clicking sharply on the hardwood floor. After Judith left, the three of us stood in awkward silence. Finally Emma spoke. Dad, can we talk? Just us. Marcus nodded. I'll give you two some privacy. He squeezed Emma's hand and disappeared into the bedroom. Emma and I sat on opposite ends of the couch, the same way we'd sat during those awful holiday visits. But this time she turned to face me. I don't know where to start, she said. Start anywhere. I've been angry at you for so long. Since before Mom died, really. You were always working, always busy. And then when she got sick, you were at the hospital, but you were absent. Like you were there physically but not really there. I was trying to hold everything together, I said. Your mother was dying, the medical bills were piling up, you needed stability. So I worked more hours, took every overtime shift, buried myself in being the provider. But I didn't need a provider. I needed a dad. I needed someone to cry with, to talk about how scared I was, to just be present. I know. And I'm sorry. I thought if I could keep the house running, keep the bills paid, keep everything normal, that would be enough. But you needed me emotionally. And I didn't know how to give you that. She wiped her eyes. After Mom died, I was so angry. At the cancer, at the world, at God. But mostly at you. Because you were still there and she wasn't. And every time I looked at you, all I could see was what I'd lost. So you pushed me away. And you let me. You didn't fight for me, Dad. You just accepted it. Every time I was cold or distant, you'd just nod and back off. Part of me wanted you to fight. To demand that we work through it together. But you never did. I was terrified, I admitted. Terrified that if I pushed too hard, you'd cut me off completely. So I thought if I just gave you space, gave you what you asked for, eventually you'd come back to me. And I thought your not fighting meant you didn't care enough to try. We sat with that truth for a moment. We both failed each other, Emma said finally. You weren't the parent I needed. And I wasn't fair to you. I was a kid dealing with trauma, but I used that trauma to justify treating you terribly. You were 17 when your mother died. You get a pass. I'm 28 now. I don't get a pass for the last decade." She took a shaky breath. "Judith made it easy to blame you for everything. Every problem in my life, every bad feeling, every disappointment. She'd find a way to trace it back to you. And I let her because it was easier than taking responsibility for my own choices. She's very convincing." "She's a sociopath," Emma said flatly. "Dad, I said terrible things to you at my wedding. In front of everyone. I humiliated you after you'd given me thousands of dollars. Money I didn't even know about. How can you ever forgive me? Because you're my daughter. And I love you. That doesn't go away, even when you hurt me." She started sobbing then, deep, wrenching sobs that shook her whole body. I moved closer and pulled her into my arms the way I used to when she was small. "I'm so sorry," she gasped. "I'm so sorry, Daddy. Daddy." She hadn't called me that since she was 15. "I know, sweetheart. I know. Emma and I didn't fix everything overnight. But we started talking, really talking, for the first time in years. She told me about her grief, about the therapy she'd started and stopped, about the anger she'd carried. I told her about my regrets, about the nights I'd cried alone in my car, about the dozens of times I'd almost showed up at her dorm unannounced but chickened out. Marcus joined some of our conversations. He was dealing with his own betrayal. Learning that his mother was capable of such calculated cruelty had shaken him. But he supported Emma's healing, and gradually, he and I formed our own relationship. True to my ultimatum, Judith wired back the $47,000 within 6 days. She tried to reach out to Marcus several times, but he maintained his boundary. The last I heard, she'd moved to Arizona to be near her sister. Emma and I established a new routine. Instead of our old Sunday diner tradition, we started having weekly video calls. Sometimes Marcus joined, sometimes not. We talked about everything and nothing. Her work as a paralegal, my gradual transition into retirement, the news, the weather, our favorite TV shows. Small things. Normal things. The building blocks of a real relationship. 3 months after the wedding, Emma posted a video to her social media. I didn't know about it until my phone started buzzing with messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. In the video, Emma sat on her couch, no makeup, eyes red from crying. "3 months ago, I publicly humiliated my father at my wedding," she began. "Most of you saw the videos. Many of you commented support for me, saying I was brave for standing up to my toxic parent." She took a shaky breath. "I was wrong. My father isn't toxic. He's imperfect, we both are. But he loved me the best way he knew how, and when I was hurting, someone I trusted took advantage of that pain to turn me against him." She explained everything. The fake calls, the stolen money, the manufactured texts, Judith's manipulation. My father paid $47,000 for a wedding he wasn't even supposed to attend. He flew across the country to support me. And I had him thrown out while hundreds of people filmed it. Tears streamed down her face. "Dad, if you're watching this, I know I've apologized privately, but you deserve a public apology too. You deserved better than how I treated you. You deserved better than a daughter who believed lies instead of trusting the man who raised her." She looked directly into the camera. "To everyone who commented on those viral videos calling my dad a narcissist, a stalker, toxic, you were wrong. I was wrong. And I'm sorry for letting my pain become his punishment." The video ended with a photo of us from when I was 5. Me pushing her on a swing, both of us laughing. "I love you, Dad. Thank you for never giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to." The video went viral too, but this time for the right reasons. 6 months later, Emma called with a proposal. "Dad, I want to have another ceremony. Small one. Just family and close friends. The people who actually matter." You're already married." "I know. But that wedding was built on lies. I want to do it right this time. I want you to walk me down the aisle. I want to say my vows in front of people who actually love us, not strangers there for the spectacle. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. The second ceremony took place in my backyard in Ohio, the same yard where Emma had learned to ride a bike, where we'd had countless barbecues, where Sarah had planted her rose garden. There were 20 people there. My sister Carol. A handful of Emma's real friends. Marcus's father and brother. His parents had divorced after Judith's fraud came to light. A few neighbors who'd known Emma since she was born. No elaborate florals. No string quartet. No thousands of dollars in decorations. Just white folding chairs, grocery store flowers, and a Bluetooth speaker playing Emma's favorite songs. Emma wore a simple sundress. I wore my suit from the funeral home, the one I'd worn to Sarah's service. When the processional music started, Emma took my arm. Her hand trembled. "You okay?" I whispered. "More than okay. This is what I should have done the first time." We walked together across the grass, past the roses Sarah had planted, toward the simple arch where Marcus waited. This time, when we reached the altar and the officiant asked, "Who gives this woman to be married?" I said loud and clear, "Her mother and I do." And Emma squeezed my hand, tears streaming down her face. At the small reception in my living room, Emma and I had our father-daughter dance. We swayed to Butterfly Kisses. Cheesy, I know, but it had been Sarah's choice for this moment. She'd picked it out years ago when Emma was still small, saying, "This is the song for her wedding someday." "Mom would have loved this," Emma whispered. "She would have loved seeing you happy. Really happy, not performing for strangers." "Do you think she'd forgive me for how I treated you?" "Your mother understood complicated feelings better than anyone. She'd tell you that healing isn't linear, and love means working through the hard parts." I miss her so much. "Me too, baby. Every single day." As the song ended, Emma pulled back and looked at me seriously. "Dad, I need to say something." "Okay." "I spent so many years angry at you for not being perfect. For working too much, for emotionally checking out when Mom got sick, for not fighting harder to stay in my life. But you were grieving too. You lost your wife. And you were trying to keep your devastated daughter afloat while drowning yourself. Let me finish. You weren't perfect, but you were there. You paid my bills, sent me care packages at college, showed up every time I came home even though I was awful to you. You never stopped loving me, even when I made it impossible to love me. It was never impossible. It should have been. But you kept showing up. And when someone tried to destroy our relationship for money, you chose protecting me over revenge. Even when I didn't deserve it. You always deserved it. You're my daughter. And you're my dad. Not a checkbook. Not an ATM. Not a supporting character in my life. My dad. And I'm sorry it took me this long to remember that." We hugged, and I felt something release in my chest. A knot of pain I'd carried for a decade finally loosening. "We're going to be okay," I whispered. "We already are," she whispered back. It's been a year since the second ceremony. Emma and Marcus bought a house 20 minutes from mine. We have Sunday dinners every week. Sometimes at their place, sometimes at mine. We've reinstated the diner tradition too, though now Marcus usually joins us. Emma and I are in therapy together, working through the layers of grief and miscommunication that defined our relationship for so long. It's hard work. Some sessions end with both of us crying. But we're doing the work together, which is what matters. Judith tried to reach out once through a lawyer, claiming I'd damaged her reputation and demanding restitution. My lawyer sent back a detailed list of her crimes and suggested that any further contact would result in criminal charges. We haven't heard from her since. Marcus maintains minimal contact with his mother. A phone call on major holidays, nothing more. It's his boundary to set, and Emma supports him either way. As for me, I'm retired now. I spend my days tending Sarah's rose garden, reading, and being available when Emma calls just to chat. I'm learning that being present doesn't always mean doing. Sometimes it just means being there when needed. Last week, Emma came over for dinner and brought a small wrapped box. "What's this?" "Yes." "Just open it." Inside was a framed photo from the backyard ceremony. The moment right after I'd walked her down the aisle. We were both crying, holding each other tight, and the look on Emma's face was pure love. Underneath she'd written, "To the man who never stopped fighting for me, even when I didn't want to be found. Love you, Dad. Always." I keep it on my bedside table now. Some mornings I wake up and think the whole last year was a dream. The wedding disaster, the truth coming out, the healing. Then I see that photo and know it's real. My daughter and I found our way back to each other. It wasn't easy and it wasn't pretty, but we did it. And that's worth more than any amount of money. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. But sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply living well, loving hard, and letting the truth speak for itself. I didn't destroy Judith Reynolds. I didn't publicly shame her or ruin her life. I just took back what was mine and protected my daughter from further harm. And in doing so, I got something money can't buy. I got my little girl back. If you're going through something similar, if you're the parent of an estranged child, or if you're the child who's pushed away a parent, I hope our story gives you hope. Relationships can be rebuilt. Trust can be restored. Love can survive even the deepest wounds. Takes work. Takes honesty. Takes both people willing to own their mistakes and do better. But it's possible. And it's worth it. Thank you for listening to this story. If it resonated with you, please subscribe to Sour Revenge Stories. We share real tales of betrayal, justice, and the complex realities of family relationships. Hit that bell icon so you never miss a story. And if you're struggling with a difficult family situation, remember, you're not alone. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is reach out, be vulnerable, and try again. Take care of yourselves out there. And remember, the best revenge is healing and moving forward. Until next time, this is Sour Revenge Stories.